Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Machin Lahira Online Smicha. We all know that a very sensitive and emotional time is when you hear young children or you hear orphans, even not young, saying Kaddish on a beloved one that passed away. In Maseches Kala, Perik Beis, it says a fascinating story. Ma'aseh Rabbi Akiva is a story of Rabbi Akiva, that he was once in the midbar doing his boidadus and learning privately, and he sees somebody come over to him, a black person. He's all filthy, dirty, he's running around like a horse, and he's carrying heavy bags of twigs. So Rabbi Akiva said, whoa, slow down, what's going on? So the man responds, you should know that I'm really somebody that died already. But every day the Malachi Kabbalah drive me crazy, and they rule that I should go chop wood, and in that wood they burn me again and again every day. Why? Because I went against all mitzvahs in the Torah during my lifetime. So Rabbi Akiva turns to him and says, did you hear anything upstairs, a conversation? What kind of takana could be done to save you from this terrible punishment? So he responded, I heard them saying that if I have a son that comes to shul in a community and he says Kaddish and Baruch Hu, and the kohol answers Amen Yehesh Meirabba Baruch Hashem Mavorach, they would stop. That moment they would stop this harsh punishment. So Rabbi Akiva went back found out where he lives, where his homeland was, and after investigation, Rabbi Akiva found his son, the person's son, who still wasn't gemalit even. Rabbi Akiva started the whole process. He did a bris milah on him, and he sat down to learn Torah with him. And the kid never had a verstopte cup, and he wasn't able to understand anything. Rabbi Akiva sat in a fast, Arbaim Yoim. For 40 days he fasted and davened until a basko came out and said, Rabbi Akiva, your tefillah was niskabel. So he went and he spent all the time to learn with this child, taught him Torah, taught him Krishma, tefillah, berchas hamazon, and he said, okay, now time has come for you to daven in the shul and say Kaddish and Baruch Hashem and Vayrach, and like this people would answer Amen after your davening. When this started being done, they released the mess from this harsh punishment, and he came to Rabbi Akiva in a dream, and he said, Rebbe, tanuach daito b'Gan Eden, you should have a good place, rest in Gan Eden, just like what you did for me. Heinachta as daiti, you calmed my situation down, and you saved me from Gehenna. So we see that the person, the son, saying Kaddish has tremendous effect to schlep a parent, a deceased, out of the harshest punishment. In Tana Devrei Eliyahu, we find that the same statement, a katan, a yosin that says Kaddish for his parents, is matzil es aviv min hapiranos. He saves a father from any punishment that he deserved for whatever he did during his life. In Kisvei Arizal, he says a little more. He says not only that a kid who says Kaddish saves a parent from whatever punishment, actually has a benefit too. He also is ma'ila him to Gan Eden. Not only schleps him out from a punishment, but actually brings him into Gan Eden, and in Gan Eden itself, he's able to bring him from level to level. So this difference, whether it's just to schlep him out of a punishment or to elevate him to a Gan Eden, is actually halachic that nafkamina. Because if it's only to schlep him out of Gehenna, so then why would a kid say Kaddish on Shabbos and Yontif? We all know that on Shabbos and Yontif, Gehenna is closed. Nevertheless, the minig is that when you say Kaddish for a father and mother, you say it for the full 11 months, whether it's a weekday or Shabbos and Yontif, even though it's not Yemei Din. Because as mentioned before, it's not only a question of schlepping out of Gehenna, it's actually a question, it also helps to elevate the neshama to higher soul. So it's brought in Shailos Tshuvas Sfarim, in Shailos Tshuvas Chelkas Yaakov Chelik Beis Siman Tzadi Gimel, he says, if a father says, he's about to pass away, and he says, I allow you kids, Kinderlach, you don't have to say Kaddish after I pass away. They shouldn't listen to him, and they should say Kaddish. And in the Shailos Tshuvas, he explains, even though a father does have right to be Meichel on his kavod, that's only for kavod. But a special thing, the special levels or spiritual levels that Kaddish accomplishes, if the father would have only known in his lifetime when he said it, how great the Kaddish is, he would never allow that to happen. He would never say, he would demand they should say Kaddish. Kaddish is very, very special, and you cannot just decide to say whenever you want Kaddish. And even in the Rebbe's letter, the Rebbe writes, we are not marba b'kadeshim. There's a certain limited amount of kadeshim to be said, and that's it. Even in the Aruch HaShulchan, in Siman Nun Hey, Sif Tes, and Mishnah Berurah, Sif Katan Aleph, in Siman Nun Hey, they both say that you're not allowed to be marba b'kadeshim, because the Kaddish is such a sharvite shel melech malchei amlachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's the stick of the Eibishter. It's the staff the Eibishter has, and you're only allowed to use it based on the instructions that he gave us when you're allowed to use it. Now, it's mentioned that obviously a son says Kaddish for his parents. How about for his grandparents, if there's nobody else to say? Or if there is somebody else to say, but the people, they're not makbid if the Einakol is saying it. So if as long as you know they're not makbid, the Einakol is saying it, then a grandson is also able to say Kaddish. And it's actually brought in the Sefer Ashkafta the Rebbe that the Rebbe Rashab would always say Kaddish in the yahrzeit of his Zayda. And we see that the accomplishment of Kaddish is not only necessarily directly connected to our son. So what happens if somebody does not have a son? So then you don't have any children, then it's better actually, it's brought to hire somebody to say Kaddish than to get people to say it for free, because when you get it done with schar, it's a better mitzvah. That's what it says in Poskim. So if you're hiring somebody, there are these people, there are these services that allow themselves to get paid to say Kaddish. Do you have to say it only for one person, or could you say Kaddish having many people in mind? So this Shuvah, Moshe Feinstein, Shailos Tshuvas Igros Moshe, Yeridei Siman Reish and Dalid, he said you could only have in mind the amount of people as many Kaddeshim as you're saying per day. In other words, if you're saying 16 Kaddeshim, 17 Kaddeshim a day, whatever it is, that's how many people you could have in mind and charge money for, because at least one Kaddish, you have each specific person in mind. But if you're going to say 15, 16, 17 Kaddeshim, and you're going to have 20 people in mind, there is no one Kaddish that could be doubled up for more than one person. That was the Psak Din from Reb Moshe Feinstein. Now, I spoke about how important the Kaddeshim is, but I want to conclude with a very fascinating statement that Reb Aaron McCarlin said. Reb Aaron McCarlin said, when a son says Kaddish for his father and mother, it's like he's sending them regards. When he learns a Perek Mishnayis, it's as if he's sending them a letter. When he does mitzvahs and ma'asim tovim on their behalf, it's like he sends them a whole box of goodies.